First in the tank is a unique fruit that magically transforms flavor.
Another dude stealing my hair.
Hey, Sharks, I'm Giuliano.
And I'm Hank.
We're from Santa Monica, California, and we're looking for $80,000 in exchange for 15% of our business.
It tastes like candy.
Hold on, what kind of a berry makes a lemon taste like candy?
Nature's wild berry. Just chew this berry, and it'll turn anything sour, tart, even fermented, sweeter than sugar.
That sounds like a magic wizard
Right
berry.
now, give it up. Give super claps for super entrepreneur, super Hank, and super Giuliano. Woo! Welcome. Welcome. How you guys doing
Thank
today?
you. Better now.
Better. I know it's been a little while since we've gotten to, it took a while to get on the schedule and everything. So I'm glad that you guys are finally here. Both of you are here. Now, Hank, you've been a channel fan, a super entrepreneur for like a year?
At least a year.
That is, I got to ding the bell for that. That is absolutely incredible.
Every single episode, every single video, Joe.
I haven't been able to put out videos lately. This video will be going up probably Tuesday, this upcoming Tuesday from when we record it. And I just haven't had a chance because it's summertime. The kids come home. And it's pool time. It's, doing the things. There are swim lessons right now. And there's just so much going on. I just have not had time to do anything outside of these interviews. So I'm really glad that you enjoy the channel and you've gotten to learn and be active in the super community. So thank you for that, Hank.
Well, everything back at you, Joe, because you're the one who's leading this entire channel. And I also love following the comments that you post on your other, like your social, like your personal social, just because it's a running theme, and I just love that no matter what negativity gets thrown your way, you have positivity to throw back. And that's why I just love being a part of the community,
Oh, well, thank you. I do try my best. Look, people come around. Sometimes they just got to watch a couple episodes. It's not quite what they're expecting. And that's okay. It opens the door to so many more people, and everybody is welcomed. And, so it's an honor to get to serve people from all over the world, and it's just awesome that so when you found the channel, were you already a fan of this channel, or were you already getting ready to go on Shark Tank, or how did that happen?
Can I jump in real quick?
Oh yeah,
go for it, Jim.
Go ahead.
I gotta say, Hank was saying he was watching your channel. I remember a long time ago, before we got on Shark Tank, he was like, "Yeah, see this guy," and I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's cool, it's cool," and he goes, "He's going to interview us." And I go, "Oh, yeah?" And he goes, "Yeah, he's going to interview us." And I go, "Oh, did you schedule something with him?" Because, Hank's such a social guy. And he goes, "No, we're going to be on Shark Tank. And when we're on Shark Tank, we're going to get a deal. And he's going to interview us afterwards." And I'm like, okay.
And here we are.
He predicted it. So
It's like Babe Ruth, Joe?
Yeah.
Babe Ruth.
He's been in the news a lot because of that Ohtani potential deal, like because he's the pitcher / batter guy, and because it's like people comparing Babe Ruth's numbers to his numbers and all that. So that's a good reference there.
Yeah, man. Well, you have to in entrepreneur land, you're always predicting what you want to have happen. And so, yeah, I've been a fan of the show actually before we got to notice that we'd be on. I think that the breakdowns are awesome. I love getting a chance to feel like I'm understanding where the entrepreneurs are coming through from. I mean, in the interviews that you do. And I think that's pure gold. Not just the breakdown of your reaction to the show on the night of, but I think the interviews have so much nugget to learn from. I think and I don't think anyone has interviewed more Shark Tank entrepreneurs than yours truly out there. So
I don't know. I know there was a couple of ding, but I know there was a couple of entrepreneur or Shark Tank shows. I know there's a few out there now. One by Joe from Flex Screen is doing a show as well, and I want to say there's at least one or two other ones that I know of that are doing it. But yeah, I mean, people reach out to me. I don't particularly have a ton of time to do all these, or I would just be doing them all the time. And so it's an honor that you got, you guys specifically, but every Shark Tank entrepreneur reaches out and wants to come on the show. And I give an hour a week to do, dedicated to this, to to help other entrepreneurs figure out like what, you know, the deeper in-depth knowledge that comes with going on the show. So speaking of that, what were you guys feeling when you were walking out on onto the carpet there through the hallway?
Oh boy, Juliano, you go. You tell him first.
So I'll tell you, walking wasn't that bad. It was waiting to walk. That was the it was that suspense of knowing, okay, I'm about to walk in and look at everybody, and it's going to start, and I could run away right now if I wanted to. I could just run. I don't have to deal with this. I could leave now. You know, it's scary. It's a scary feeling, you know, to sit there and face potential success. And you know, it's kind of cliche to say, but that saying that there's a fear of success, it's very real. And I've encountered a lot of people who, you know, looked success in the face and been too scared to grab it because it's real. It's like, okay, I make it now. Now I make it, and there's a whole slew of problems. I'm successful. I have money. I have this. I have that. And you know, it seems like the dream, but it becomes a reality very quickly.
Yeah. I mean, you definitely have to be able to stare it in the face, and but I don't know. I mean, a lot of people have said that they're walking down. They're like, I blacked out. Like I just shut
by
down.
The time I was walking, that's 100. Well, when I walked, I shut down. You're looking at everybody. I just remember looking when I first got on there. I'm looking at all the sharks, and I wanted to work with Mark so bad that. I just couldn't look at him. I'm like, I can't look there because it's crazy. I can't even believe he's sitting there. I can't look at him. So I looked at everybody else but him. And sure enough, as soon as I walk in, he says something right about me. Another guy stealing my hair. I don't know if he's talking to me. I don't know if he's talking to Hank, but I just.
He's definitely talking about you.
Yeah, he's definitely talking about
you. I'm sitting there, I'm like, oh, geez. You don't hear it in there, but I go, you did it. You wear it better. So,
well, he had long hair, right? I believe he had long hair when he was a teenager. Yeah. So I mean, flattered by that, but yeah, intense. Hank, how are you feeling?
You know, Joe, it felt like forever, but it was a few minutes while we were just standing there with the door closed. And I remember not being able to swallow because I had no saliva left in my mouth. And then I started asking for water, but I couldn't speak because my mouth, my vocal cords, everything just went on strike. It was like pressure is too intense. So Juliano's like, emergency water. We got to get some water real quick. And so I took 5 big swigs, and then they were like, don't worry, we've got water out. It's going to be underneath the table right there. You can take it anytime. We won't show it on air, just whenever you need water. So that made me feel better. And then Juliano and I have a little saying that we like to say, which is a series of fortunate events instead of a series of unfortunate events. And so I just that was my little mantra that I was repeating to myself as it seemingly took forever for them to open up the doors. But like Juliano said, once it opened and we started walking, and I kind of bumped into him on that first step, I was like, okay, he's right next to me. We got this together. And then, yeah, and we practiced that pitch probably 1 million times. So we knew what to say and we knew how to do it.
Yeah, I mean, so when it comes to the Sharks, you had Mark in mind that you both wanted to work with Mark.
We actually had both. We actually had both Mark and Lori. We were prepared for anything. We actually talked well in advance of, any shark. What would the deal be for the maximum and minimum that we'd be willing to do? But we definitely dreamed during that process, and our dream was to have Mark and Lori.
Oh wow! Well, that you gotta be dreaming, right? And that's a big part of being able to project into what the reality can become. And here, I mean, it's funny too because so the way that it was portrayed was like, well, if Mark wants to come in, and then you guys are like, you got a deal, right? You guys seized that moment. Is that really how it played out in reality, or is that was there a bunch of stuff cut out in between?
Well, there's always a bunch of stuff cut out for sure. I mean, like everyone knows, it's a 50-minute, hour plus meeting there. for the entire pitch, and we got to show about 9 minutes on air. So there's a lot that's cut out, but I actually was prepared to do a lot more selling. As a talker, it seemed like we got done selling probably within about 20 minutes or less, actually. And then the negotiations are what lasted the longest, probably like 30 minutes or more. And so, as Mark's, he likes to kind of wait until the very end. He likes other sharks to build value and then create a little bit of urgency with that shot clock thing. And then he likes to feel the entrepreneurs out. In my opinion, he likes to see how they react and respond to a little bit of like curveballs thrown at them or the first initial pitches that in our case, Kevin and Damon threw out there. But Jay, what was your thought about how it ended?
So all I know is Lori made the deal, and I really wanted to work with her. So I was ecstatic when she said, "Hey, I threw you a deal. What do you want to do?" And I literally was just assuming that, oh, listen, Mark is too big. He's too much of a behemoth to just, want to work with us. So I guess he's out. He's not saying anything. I don't even want to try and disrespect him and say, "Hey, Mark, anything?" I just felt like, leave the greatness alone. I don't know. I'm happy with Lori. I wanted her anyways. So I was about to open my mouth and go, "Lori, you got a deal." And right as I said that, Hank interrupts me and he starts going, "Mark, what about you? How you feeling?" And then he just goes into this thing that you see on air. And I'm like, "Wait, what's happening?" And Mark starts talking to him and he goes, "Lori, would you go in with Mark?" And I'm like, "Wait, what?" And he goes, "Yeah, I do that." And then Lori's like, "Yeah, I do that." And Hank goes, "Deal." And I'm like, "Wait, what just happened?" And you can see it. I'm just like, hold on. Like everything is, I'm in a state of confusion. So it was amazing, just to know that not only did Mark understand where we were coming from, and Lori did too, and I love that all the sharks really seemed to understand where we were coming from as far as why we were doing the business, what the intent was, and the fact that Lori said exactly what I feel when I think of the business and I describe it. At least when I first came into it, I don't know what there is to do here, but I know there's something to do, and there's a lot. So I'm on board. And then when Mark was like, "Yeah, listen, I'll go in with Lori, I'll take a flyer," it was like, wow, these two people who I so admire and look up to see the same thing that I do. And I get the opportunity to work with them now. This is unreal. Unreal. I mean, an honor beyond honors.
It is. I'm getting a lot of feedback from you, Giuliano, when you speak. I don't know if it's because of you, Hank. Do you guys happen to have headphones? It's all right. It's all right. We'll just
okay.
We'll what I could do is I can when it's happening, I'll mute Hank to try to get it to go away for a little bit, and then pull it back when you start wrapping. When it looks like you're starting to wrap up what you're saying.
Well, then you're practically part of the business because I mute Hank all the time. So welcome to the club.
Oh,
I'm joking.
I hope so.
No, we give each other a hard time. Listen, I feel like part of being in business together is there's so much stress and hell that you got to have a good time and laugh. You can laugh at each other, laugh with each other, but at the end of the day, we're basically brothers, so it works out well.
Oh, I love it. I'm gonna leave that in there. So when it came, all right. So when it came time to decide what your initial valuation was going to be, the offer to the Sharks, how did you guys go about formulating that? 80,000, 15% is a bit unorthodox.
In what way would you say it's unorthodox? Just out of curiosity.
Well, because most people would be like, "I want 100,000 for 10%," or "I want," you know what I mean. Asking for 15% is not super common on the show. It's 5%, 10%, 20%. Nice even numbers. I mean, 15% is one of the fives, but it's just not as often. Though sometimes you'll see. What was the other day was like 12% or 11%.
Yeah. Sometimes it's very odd.
Yeah, like what? So how did you guys come to the 80,000 for 15% valuation?
I think Hank and I may have separate answers for this, but
Okay,
my answer was I basically wanted to say, I'll give you, 20% for $1. At the end of the day, I wanted them to be a part of the team. But the truth is, we really could use the funds for, expanding the business. Exactly what we were saying. Actually, I don't know if that didn't really air, but they were asking, what are you going to use the money for? And it's like, well, we want to expand the operation and basically increase production capacity, because we were doing good before we got on the show, and we wanted to continue increasing sales. We're a company that cares about people, so we just wanted to take that and use it to better care about people. So instead of saying $1, we're like, hey, let's actually do what our evaluation, what we assume it to be. And we came up with that, which is, I feel like, a conservative number. And we didn't want to scare the sharks away because, the economy isn't doing that great, especially back then. And, we're not making a ton of money, but it's enough where we, could say, hey, let's do 80,000 for 15%. It just seemed like something fair for both of us. It wasn't nothing, but it wasn't a ton. So, something that we could both work with. Hank, what do you think? What's your answer?
Yeah, I think that part of it was not coming with something like 1, 2, 3, 5, 10%. We wanted to go above 10%. Leave some room on the table to negotiate also, but something less than 100,000, as you always say, Joe, that's tempting for a shark to want to invest in. It's nothing to put your guard up or your wall. Your ears are open because it's a very investable amount, especially for the show. So plus Barbara said something that was pretty accurate in my opinion. Like it is a wacky type of product. A lot of people doubt it before they even try it, and so just getting people to listen, especially when you have one shot to make it, in front of a national audience. I've been a huge fan of the show since it came out. I was watching it in 2010, watched every single episode, so I knew that there was no do-overs, or maybe like one person got a do-over, maybe 2 people in the history of the show. So chances of us getting that second chance were probably slim to none. And I really wanted it to be as enticing as possible. And when we got done with the episode, I just remember looking back and thinking like Jay, we got 4 offers. Like we got more offers than we expected to get. And so I think that all came down to being, making an offer where our valuation was very doable for an investor.
Yeah, I mean, we do say that here on the channel a lot, where anything under 100,000 or around 100,000 is pretty fair game to get a deal, especially when you're not like 80,000 for 1% or something like. It's like, oh, I'm only this for a little money, but I'm not giving up enough for them to care any time after the show, after they're finished taping there. So no, that is, I think it was smart. I think it was smart to come in, especially where you are with the business and what you're doing, is something that is different, where people have to get in their mind that they can use this as a tool or as a party trick or as, something just fun to mess around with from time to time. You have something that, enables people that, if they wanted to use it as a tool, they totally could, right? To lose weight, if sugar is their crutch, and have an opportunity to reduce the amount of sugar intake that they're doing. So it's it's coming from so many different angles, and I think it was great that Mark did not try to lambast you on that, whoa, weight loss, hey, you're not making that claim, and I'm not going down that road, because obviously that's not the full intent of what it does. It's almost like a byproduct of what it can do if utilized as a tool.
Ding, 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 ding,
there
ding.
You go.
Yeah, ding indeed. And he really got that, because Hank does tell a fantastic story. He was able to really speak to the sharks the way that I feel like they would understand the best, because it's not really like this gimmicky weight loss thing. It's not like that. It's just like you said, and just like Hank explained it. He used it for this, and he said, hey, maybe we could create a business that could help other people, and maybe other people could use it like that too. And that's just kind of how it got brought down. If they don't, then it can be used for fun. At the end of the day, then they can just use it and put a smile on their face. But if they can use it in another way, I mean, it's like saying, hey, I sell these weights and it makes you lose weight. No, the weights don't make you lose weight. But, I sell these running shoes. You lose weight. No, running shoes don't make you lose weight. But if you use them correctly, they could help you lose weight. So, it's all about how you use that tool.
I'm laughing because the Skechers and their shaper shoes or whatever they were called.
Oh, yeah.
And the lawsuit that they had because they were like, oh, you wear the shoe and the way it makes you walk, it'll make you lose weight because you're using more muscles, I think was the idea. I don't know. That's like saying I have a mouse and I click the mouse a million times a day, so I'm burning calories every time I click it. Like, but not enough to, matter.
That's
exactly.
What people who push the celery thing, they're always talking about how it takes more calories to chew the celery than what the celery is. But I'm like, but you're only eating celery. You know what I mean?
It's what you put on the celery that matters. That's what I'm all about. The peanut butter, the ranch dressing, or whatever else whatever kind of dip you got going on.
But
there.
Joe, you've seen enough Shark Tank to know that if our valuation was a lot higher, that objection could have easily lost us the deal. But because our valuation was totally doable in the eyes of the sharks, I believe, and because we created that sort of sense of urgency that 4 sharks wanted to make an offer, I think that they were able to overlook certain objections because the opportunity was there.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. They. I mean, you figure once you split it in half, you're $40,000. Like, that's not a ton of money for them, right? I mean, it's still a lot of money, but it's not. Yeah. It's in reality is not a lot of money to take a flyer on a company they're going to get 30%, 15% each of for $40,000. Like that is
10% each.
Oh wait, I thought it was 80,000 for 30% was what they finally. Oh no. Yeah, it was 20%. Okay, Damon was at 30%. Okay, 20%. So 10% each. Yeah, I wrote it down wrong here. So how did you guys go about balancing your life and the business and preparing for Shark Tank?
Oh man, this was all this guy right here. This was everything. He just stepped up. I got to say, for solopreneurs, especially the ones that go on the show, this question is, I love when you ask this question because I love hearing their answers. But for me, I was able to do what I usually did in my day-to-day, which is marketing, outreach, sales, that type of thing. And then Giuliano picked up all the slack when it came to getting the paperwork done and the questions getting answered and the submissions and working directly with the producers and literally every little thing he just took the reins on and spearhead. So if you have a question about, like, if you're just starting your own business, can you find somebody that you can trust just to help you 100% from every single angle? I would recommend you pull that person in and you give them straight up equity because they are worth every cent when it comes to your success. There's absolutely no way that we would have been able to do the show if it wasn't for all the work that Giuliano put in. Say something about that, Giuliano.
Listen, I got to say I agree 100% with Hank because I feel the same way about him. It's a very yin and yang type of relationship. We're kind of opposites. So, in that regard, I pick up the slack where he doesn't, and he picks up the slack where I don't. And if there's something that I like to do and something that he likes to do, then, it works out well.
Yeah, I mean, if you're blessed enough to have somebody that you can partner up with, I think that is. I know me personally, I like to work with someone else in most projects because I dream too big for just me. There's always too much to be done to that I want to do or create or processes to to make efficient and all that. So for me, like getting to work with other people, and bring their creativity and their their opportunities, their background, their history, their lessons that they've learned, to me is always the best. The hardest part is finding the right person to go and do that with.
I got to tell you, I was. Sorry. I got to tell you, I was working with. I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I've always wanted to have something that was mine, and in one way or another, in sales or this or that. And I worked with a lot of people, and a lot of people who were just fantastic at business, successful, smart, educated, this and that. And I got to tell you, they all failed me one way or another. They all failed. They either couldn't step up and keep up with the hours. They couldn't be dependable. They weren't smart enough to know how to maneuver through the trenches of business and the obstacles and the everyday challenges that really just take you and throw you on the ground and put their foot on your face. And you're like, okay, here I am, but I got to get up. And, they quit for that. Or even just like the hard-headedness where they're like, hey, I have this ego. And I'm like, wow, I guess it doesn't work. And then Hank came to me. That's when he was like, hey, let's do a business. And I go, there's no way you're going to be able to keep up, because I'm dealing with people who are, at least in what I thought were just like top echelon business people. And Hank is just like my party buddy. Like, you're the guy I hang out with you're like my best friend to have fun with. Like, you can't keep up. And he's like, no, I can. And the third time he asked me, I remember it was like every couple of weeks he'd ask me again. And the third time I go, okay, you know what, Hank? You think you can hang? I'm telling you, it's not a cakewalk. All right, let's go. We'll do this business and let's see if you can hang. And I will tell you what, he has kept going every single day since then. I think that was like 2014. We decided to try and do this business. Every single day, he goes harder than I do. It's insane. It's unbelievable how he just never, ever quit. And that's why we have this business. It's because of him. And, to be able to trust somebody too is unbelievable. It's, that you can sit there and put your bank account in his hands and vice versa, and know that, we have each other's back. I went through a time where I was working the business and I was overworked myself, and I ended up getting like a panic attack, and I couldn't work for like 2 months. I just was like physically incapable because of just this unbelievable stress. And I'm like, he's like, hey, can you do this? And I go, Hank, I can't. I'm unable to. I'm freaking out. And I had to go to the hospital. It was crazy. And he just stepped up. He took care of everything. And for 2 weeks, I didn't do any work. I just had to relax and focus on healing. And he did everything. And what he did instead of complain is he was supportive, and he was there for me for anything I needed, not only for the business but like personally too. He's like, hey, can I get you anything? Bring you any juice? And when you have somebody where if you're in trouble, that they can help you, personally, if you have to go out of town, it's just like, if he says, hey, I got to do this, I'm like, you go do whatever you need to do. I got your back, and vice versa. So someone you can trust and someone you can depend on, and who's hardworking and smart. It's hard to find that. It's damn near impossible. So, I'm blessed. That's the only reason why we have this business.
Hank, you respond before I say anything. Go ahead.
Well, thanks for the kind words, but actually forgot about that hospital trip. But yeah, it's at the time when we aired, it was 6 years, and now it's 7, Joe. And after we closed and we aired, and we had all that kind of fanfare, and the work really, really started to pour in. Jay and I looked at each other and said, no matter what we've been through together, like, I feel like today is day one. Like, we're, this is a different company now. Like, we have, goals that we've hit now, and we can reset and aim to reach again. So I'm kind of excited to see what this dream team, now that there's 4 of us in the business, what we can do together, because like so many obstacles have prepared us for the challenges that we faced immediately airing. And then, of course, I don't know, this is probably not going to come out, so this will come out after our re-air, but our re-air is this Saturday. And so, going through it once, and then now we know what to expect, and just being able to count on the processes that the people we have put into place is, it's comforting, because not only do we have a map for where we want to go, but for certain things, we've already experienced those challenges, and we know how to get around them, under them, over them, whatever it took to overcome that obstacle. So, yeah, to tie it back, if you think that you just have somebody that's like someone that you can trust that you might not think is good for the business, but you have absolutely nobody else, and it's between that and like a stranger or somebody that you would try and find at a meetup group or an entrepreneur group like that, I would take your best friend any day of the week, twice on Sunday, because they'll help you reach that goal much better because they know you, especially if you're willing to put all the work in. It's something that I would definitely recommend, Joe.
1,000%. Look, trust is expensive, right? It requires time, right? We get three resources, right? Time, energy, and money being the least three important of the three in my view. And your story there, Giuliano, was making me tear up. So I don't know how you held it together, but that was absolutely beautiful. And I loved that you pointed out Hank's persistence, asking 3 times, didn't quit after the first time asking. And there's a story about persistence if you're talking about Starbucks. The CEO of Starbucks, they asked like for a year to get in to be a part of the team over at Starbucks back in the 70s, I want to say. Not that I'm the biggest Starbucks fan. I don't actually drink coffee, but it's a great story of persistence and that right there, asking 3 times, being a great friend, and being a really great friend, not just an opportunist friend or an opportunistic person to want to try to like take advantage or anything to that nature. It's worth so much. You may, and the other thing is I'll add is, you may or may never get to go to Shark Tank with your best friend or take it to the moon as they say. But if you have a damn good time doing it, it's not that big of a deal either, right? Because again, money's the third most important of how you spend your time and energy, with money being the replenishable one. So, you're doing it right. You're doing it right. Yeah. And I think that's amazing.
Hey, thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
And just to jump back to, you were saying about Starbucks, apparently also J.K. Rowling got rejected a ton with her books, and she just kept going, and look what happened with that. Also, apparently Disney was laughed out of the world too when he was like, "Yeah, I want to do Disney theme park." They're like, "Get the hell out of here." So, we wouldn't have Disney, we wouldn't have Harry Potter, Starbucks. That persistence, it pays. It's not just a saying.
No, it absolutely does. It does not happen overnight, and you have to really have that vision and just keep going and pushing for it. So how did you guys end up getting connected with Shark Tank? Did you apply or did they reach out to you?
So we applied 2 years ago, back in 2019, or I guess that would be 3 years ago in 2019. Way too early. Like totally not ready to be on air, but usually entrepreneurs are early to things. And then when we didn't hear back, and then the pandemic kind of happened, and then went through all that craziness where time warped a little bit. I was spending more and more time on LinkedIn, and the casting director popped up on my feed. I was able to reach out personally and make sure that our application was like viewed. And I think LinkedIn is really underrated, especially in the CPG community founder space, because between me and Giuliano, we have a lot of lessons that we learned, but there's so much more to learn. And the community there is actually a really strong, close-knit community that you get to know each other on a personal level, and it's good for your mental health. And it obviously it also provides business opportunities too. But if there's one app that I think that needs to be utilized more, it's the CPG founder community on LinkedIn for sure.
Yeah, so it's funny because in the marketing space, in the podcasting space, content creation space, LinkedIn has always kind of been the fringe one. Like I have a few friends that are like real big into it, but I'll tell you, my dad, with our company, Part of Truck Parts, or that was the old company, Part of Fleet Solutions, that he gets so many people reaching out to him through LinkedIn just by advertising our company through his personal LinkedIn profile, not even talking about the business page. And he's connected with all these different fleet managers and things like that. So there's definitely, I think, depending on what business you're in, there's a niche of a group of people that are going to LinkedIn more so and still using LinkedIn for what it's really meant for, which is, conducting business and that kind of stuff, rather than the Facebooks and the Twitters and all the big shiny flashy ones or shiny ones that are out there, like the ones that are meant for more maybe personal can be for business, but yeah, I think there's a really strong LinkedIn community out there that you just got to be able to tap into it.
Exactly.
So as far as I'm assuming, well, Hank, you obviously were a big fan of Shark Tank. Juliana, were you as big of a fan of Shark Tank, or not so much?
Let me be real with you, okay? I'll be 100%. I love Shark Tank. All right, I love the show, but I had this unbelievable amount of just like, I don't even want to say what it was. You could just figure out the word. I would watch the show and I would be so upset because I'd be like, I want to be on this show. I feel like we could be on this show. We would do great on this show. Why aren't I on this show? And I almost had like a little, I don't know, almost like resentment that I wasn't on there. So I was like, you know what? I love the show. I'll watch a few of them, but like, some of them are just way too interesting to not watch. But, for the most part, I wouldn't watch it religiously like I wanted to, because I'm just like, when I want the show, then I'll watch it all the time. But until I get on the show, I don't want to watch it. But I love the show. Absolutely. And that's part of why I didn't want to even watch it, because I was like, I want to save binge watching the show until I'm on it. And then I can be proud and feel accomplished and watch a show and know, hey, I'm one of those guys. I'm one of the people who was on the show too. But it's nonsense. I don't think that's a great way to be. But we did get on the show, and now I can watch it, and I have watched it.
Oh, I thought I was going in a different direction than I was expecting. I was expecting you to say that you were jaded being an entrepreneur and being like, that's just TV. It's just a bunch of hooey or whatever. Like not like, oh man, I'm kind of jealous, like, low key jealous about the fact that I'm not on there with my business. And is that what you want me to do? You want the Go ahead.
It's true. Well, here's the thing. I did my research, because I did. I'm like, oh, is this all BS? Is this real? But I did do the research, and I looked into the businesses who are on the show, and I saw some people get a deal and they don't actually sign, and some people don't get a deal and then they have talks afterwards. And I'm like, wow, this is kind of like a real Wild West negotiating, kind of like a real Shark Tank. They're jumping in here. So once I realized, like, oh, this is like a long time. This is years ago, maybe like 6 years ago or something like that I'm going through this. And I was like, okay, yeah, it's real. That made it so much cooler. And I'm like, wow, this is actually super amazing. I want to be a part of this incredible community. And so it was low key, I guess, jealousy.
Hey, it's all good. I appreciate the honesty, as we've had honesty come through in these interviews, through doing them, and to be able to reflect back on how we feel and how other people can decide to feel for themselves. So you guys mentioned you did close your deal already, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, it is incredible. When you get that message, it was unbelievable. I saw it, and it goes, we're officially closed, and you can consider us partners. And I'm like, oh my gosh, get out of here! Like, get out of here! Like, it's crazy. It's because I was watching a lot of the show. Like I said, I love the show, but I try not to be a fanboy, although I am. But I know that one of the things that was said a lot is, when you get that handshake, that's not the deal. That is not the real deal. Like, the real deal comes afterwards. So like, that handshake does not mean anything is final. So, we got that handshake, and I was like, okay, this is just the beginning. You know, it's for me, celebration is like, you know, when I like to celebrate the company, I'm not big at celebrating. I go, okay, whoa, good job, that was amazing. But I know anything good that happens in business, it comes with a lot of work. Let's say you get a huge contract. Let's say, you know, you're on Shark Tank. Like, oh my gosh, it's fantastic. I know there's going to be a lot of work to follow this, though. So let me not sit there and you know, get drunk and wasted and do all this stuff. Like, okay, let me just sit there and go, that's kick ass, woohoo! Okay, now let me get to work. You know, that's about how much I like to celebrate. You know, so there's a lot of work to it.
What about you, Hank?
So I would watch every single episode with a deep-seated fear, Joe. Because I knew, like, the reason why I got Giuliano to go into business with me is because I was able to show him, hey, listen, man, if we don't do this, then nobody else is going to do it. It takes somebody just like us to get this started and see it the whole way through. But I knew that once we did, and once we found a little modicum of success, that there were going to be other people to copy us. And that's kind of a great thing, actually. You kind of worry about that in the beginning, but the more people that copy you, you know you're onto something. And every single week that it would air, Joe, I swear, man, I would just hold my breath thinking, is this the episode that's going to show the Miracle Berry? Is this the episode? Are these guys going to beat us? And I was so freaking nervous, Joe. I can't tell you, like, I was so motivated to be the first one on Shark Tank. And so I think that that's why it felt so good just to finally see it in person, because like, yeah, like the actual time that we were in the tank, like that hour or so, it lived on in my memory, but I didn't get to see it on screen. I don't know if you've had that experience before where you're like, kind of pinch me, did that happen? And just like, I want to make sure, like, you don't quite believe it until you see it like on TV. And then I had a huge weight lifted off my shoulders, like the relief that I had knowing that, you know, all the work, like, I think that I said it in that little exit interview, like it's a ton of nonstop work. And just to know that a Me Too company didn't beat us there for it, it meant everything to me. You know, that was a huge step. So.
Yeah, I could totally see that. I know different industry, but I had somebody reach out to me from the Philly area actually here, talking about CMOS for like a while, like for like, I don't know, 6 months or something. And then all of a sudden there was a CMOS product on Shark Tank, and you know, he's like, oh, what the heck? Like, well, you know.
What was Barbara's biggest deal? She had like a Snuggie thingy. It was the knockoff to the actual name brand or the original one. Do you remember that one?
Is it the Comfy?
Yeah, the Comfy, right, exactly. The Comfy kind of was like the second one, and the Snuggie missed out. And so that just blew up. And so I could see something where, you know, we're doing all this work day in and day out to pave the way, and, you know, another brand beat us.
That way. Exactly.
Comfy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hundreds of millions of dollars for the Comfy, right? And Snuggie's just over there like, why didn't I go on Shark Tank?
Yeah, Snuggies have been around since forever.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they saturated the market. I mean, we have a couple Snuggies here at the house.
Nice.
So what did you guys do once you got back? How did you prepare your business for potentially getting to air on Shark Tank?
So he's the major ops guy. So you answer this one, Jay.
We went to Natural Products Expo West, and there's a lot of entrepreneurs there, a lot of businesses there. And there was one guy in particular who Hank was talking to, and he goes, yeah, a buddy of mine went on Shark Tank, and he assumed he would air, and, you know, you just never want to assume anything in business, but he assumed he would air, and he ended up not airing, and he lost a lot of inventory because he over-prepared. The benefit for our product is that, you know, it has a wonderful shelf life, so we could, you know, over-prepare no problem. And that's exactly what we did. I was like, you know what? Wow, that's a really crappy situation, but that's the whole thing why we wanted to get into business, is to take this product and give it the longest shelf life possible, and retain the maximum potency and just, the integrity of the product for as long as possible. So I pretty much went onto into full let's scale up mode and scale up and scale up. And I'm telling you, we like times 8 production, right? And we did everything we could to get production going. But of course, as every entrepreneur knows, when something bad can happen, it will happen, and it did happen. And so production capacity was slightly disturbed by one thing or another, and that was terrible. But you always just got to keep pushing forward. So I pushed forward. We still just increased our production unbelievably, but we couldn't have been prepared. There's no way we could have been prepared for what happened. It was not what we thought.
Foreseeable. We did not foresee this.
So it was interesting, and it was stressful. Everything is always stressful, but you have to love that stress. If you're in business and you think it's going to be a cakewalk, or if you think, hey, I'll go through a little hell, but I'm really in it for the glory. Like, no, you can't really be in business for the glory. You got to be in it for the hell too, because you got to enjoy all the kicks and punches. I grew up loving video games. And why do you love video games? What makes a great video game? It's the challenge. And then knowing that I overcame that challenge. And then once you overcome that challenge, what is there to do? You just sit back and celebrate and throw money in the air? Or you sit back and you just do nothing? No. You go to the next level, and you go to the next level, and you keep playing. You're like, wow, this game is amazing, because it challenges you and it puts you in situations that make you think and make you feel like, crap, what do I do? I'm stuck. And so that's where I was in with that. And I was challenged, made it out, challenged again once we aired, and we just made it out. And it's just a series of challenges, but you got to love it. And I love it.
Absolutely. And so being able to over prepare, I think, is a great asset to the business, because enable you guys to not get bogged down in inventory and all that. And that's the first story, I maybe the second time I've heard of somebody getting to not air, that I've heard, either through the grapevine or someone coming to me to say that. And so it does happen. And
I've heard it happens. I've read in a lot of places people film and they might not air, or this and that, and I'm like, oh, that's interesting. It's extremely, and I understand that. So yeah.
I mean, after in the COVID season 2020. 2020 into 2021, there was an episode, I don't know if you recall, where all the sharks were together, because it was filmed, and they put a thing in front of it saying it was filmed in the previous season or the previous year before this ever happened. So I can't even imagine being that company. Well, I mean, I guess it's it's oh, we're gonna be in. Oh, I guess the season's over, and then the season starts, and all of a sudden you get that email. And you're ready, unless they already knew and it got pulled for some reason. But I don't know. Nobody's reached out from that episode yet. So maybe in the future I'll get to find out what happened there. But speaking of what happened there, tell me, guys, did you guys have a watch party? How did it go? What'd you do?
Hey, guy, you jump in.
All right, So, like Giuliano said, we had 8 times our production. I'm a weekly watcher of Shark Tank, Joe. I'm in the super community. I feel like I cannot let this one date go by without all of my best friends, my family, coming in and watching this together. So, one of Giuliano and our friends actually is pretty well off, and he's got this this Bel Air mansion, and he donated it to us for our watch party. And I was just over the moon, because it just had every amenity that you could think of, just enormous screen, great sound system, plenty of room, plenty of parking, just the whole glitz and glam, the whole nine, right? And he just was really big fans of the brand, and he is a great guy. Shout out to Judd Weiss. Anyway, there's many people that also told me, like, Hank, I want to be there. I want to watch this with you. My brother is in the industry, the film industry, so he had all the recording equipment, all the lights, and the red carpet, and the whole everything, the stop and go and all that, the step and repeat, I mean. And we had, our product is food. So we had these Michelin chefs that we've worked with in the past, and they were like, I'll bring food, and we'll make it a berry taste testing event. And it was just so much opportunity that I couldn't like see through that. I was just like a deer in the headlights. And I was like, we're going to make this happen, Giuliano. We're going to have a watch party. And Giuliano's like, what are you smoking, Hank? Like, there is absolutely no way that we can afford to do a watch party. And I was like, I don't think there's a way that we could afford not to do a watch party. And so, how it turned out was we compromised. And Giuliano's like, okay, Hank, you follow your dream. You have this watch party. I'll stay back. I'll make sure all the customer service is on point. And I was like, well, you could do that from another room. Just, after we air, just make sure everything's good and come and join the party. And Giuliano's like, you're still smoking that stuff, Hank. You need to calm down. There's no way that I could come to this party. Like, somebody has to be manning the ship. And Joe, I couldn't have predicted the response. I'm on the way to this watch party. It starts at 7:00. I want to get there a couple hours in advance just to set up and make sure that, everything's good for our guests. And, it's about 5:00 and I'm on my way up there, and the episode starts airing on the East Coast, and I get a call from Giuliano, and it's like 5:00 on the dot. And he's like, go ahead and check the Amazon right now. And we couldn't fathom it. It like almost before we started airing, people had, begun ordering the product. And it's almost as if Shark Tank viewers understand that, on the night of airing, things are going to get sold out really quickly. So it's kind of a rush to see if you can get your order in first. And 10 minutes into our airing on the East Coast, we were completely sold out of inventory. So 5/10, we went on a 30-day back order. And I'm at this party and I'm thinking, what did I do? Because here we are like celebrating, and I know that Giuliano's hair is on fire. Like, all that hair is on fire because he's manning the ship by himself. And I'm like doing interviews with newspapers and stuff like that. But I don't know what else to say. It was an unforgettable night. I had all my best friends. My mom came into town. My brother and brought all of his filmmaking friends. We had live music and just an unforgettable night. But looking back, I don't know if I would throw the party again, just because of all the work that needed to be done. Like, starting for that Friday night, and then for like the next 2 months. It was just, almost 18-hour days. I'm not exaggerating. Like, it was between 14 to 18-hour days, both of us working nonstop, fulfilling orders, getting on the production line, putting both hands in. Like, both of our hands had to be constantly working to get all these orders out. And, I'm happy to say that 99% of our orders were delivered on time. And that was... we did every single thing that we could to make sure that our customers were happy, even if it meant full refunds. We took care of everybody that believed in us and supported in us. And Giuliano, I know you probably have your perspective to add, but that's how I saw it.
I had a whole different experience on the air date. Like I said, my idea of celebrating is going, wow, that was amazing. Whew, okay, let's get back to work, And when Hank said, let's celebrate, I'm like, yeah, no. I celebrated. I said that was amazing. I jumped for joy, and I did it. That was it. I celebrated. What else is there to do? There's work to be done. So I let him celebrate, and I go, listen, I'll take over, and that's exactly what we did. Hank's a lot more sociable than I am, and I understand that that's important. Like I said, you got to be there for each other. And if he wants to have a party, go ahead. You enjoy it, and I'll hold everything down. And that's what I did, and it was wild. I mean, my phone rang off the hook at 5:01. It was calls, texts, orders, this, that. I mean, emails, complaints, requests, questions, any and everything you could think of. We had a little team to help with customer service. We basically might as well not have had the team, because it was like, imagine putting up a couple sandbags for a tsunami. It's just like, yeah, the sandbags do nothing. I mean, you might as well not even have them, because that wave is coming. It did nothing. But yeah, it was nonstop work. We had Amazon issues, website issues, product issues, promo code issues, everything you could think of. I remember Hank goes, what could possibly go wrong? I got to be here in case something goes wrong. What could possibly go wrong? And I go, Hank, when you ask that question, like, something's going to go wrong. Like, anything. I don't know. Anything, everything. Like, that's why I'll be there, because I don't know what could go wrong. So I'll be there to figure it out. And when it does, I'll be able to tell you what it is. And I have a list for him. It's a huge list. A lot went wrong. And, we did our best to plan. That's why Hank was so confident. But I'm just confident in problems. I know that I know problems will happen. So and they did, but we did our best. We took care of it, and we made it work. And Hank I did need Hank's help for a couple things, and Hank, I had to pull him away. I'm like, Hank, get over here. What's this? What's that? And he's jumping on. He's like, okay, let me use my phone, and I'm in this party. And hold on, guys, let me stop my speech and do a quick piece of work. And it's just like, he's the man of the hour. I'm like, where's Giuliano? He's like, oh, he's yelling at me right now to see if I can do this for him. So it was great. It was fun. It was like I said, yin and yang. It's just like a fun work and a party crazy guy. So it's a little bit of everything that we got with us. But it was great.
And the relationship works through it. I can appreciate the patience and the dedication to the friendship to allow that to happen, and not be like, yeah, well, Hank, if you're not going to be like here at the website, don't bother coming in, on Monday, kind of thing.
No, I'll tell you what, it was more so him. He was furious with me for not coming. He's like, you know what? You better come. You better come to this party. And I'm like, Hank, I'm sorry. There's just no way. I can't do it. And he's like, you better come. But like, there's a lot of heat. There's a lot of intensity. And I like to say there's passion. We had a couple people who worked with us, like a few friends of ours who helped us through. And they were like, hey, why don't you ever listen to my ideas? And then they would also say, hey, why are you guys always yelling at each other? And it's just like, well, because we're passionate about the business. And if I want something done, I'm passionate about it enough to keep fighting for it. And if Hank's passionate about it, passionate enough about it, then he'll fight for it. And I tell the guys, I'm like, you're just not passionate enough about it. That's why we don't listen to you. If you have an idea, I think I'm right. Hank thinks he's right. Do you think you're right? Yeah. Okay, well then prove it to me. Let's see some emotion and some passion and fight for what you believe is right, because that's what Hank and I do. If sometimes I think I'm right and Hank will push farther, and I'm like, listen, I'm not as passionate about it as you are, so we'll do your way. I think I'm right, but you're clearly more passionate. So let's do what you say. So go for it. And you got to have that passion in the business. So yeah, we did fight. There's a lot of anger. I say passion, but some people could say anger and aggression, but it's not real anger. It's just like, hey, I'm passionate about this. Hey, I'm passionate about that. And then we get loud, but there's never any like, holding on to any anger. It's just like, hey, we yell at each other for this. And then, we keep working. It's not like, oh, I'm mad at you for that. We're never mad at each other. We're just passionate about a topic. That's it.
As much as I hate the idea of people yelling at each other, I grew up in it and I know all about it. And even to this day, still try my best to not get sucked into the yelling aspect of the passionate part.
I do too. I swear, it's hard not to. Though. It's hard not to.
It is hard. It is hard. It is hard. I have to remind my dad. I'm like, look, not everybody that's here is okay with just you yelling. He's like, but I'm not yelling. I'm like, I know you're not yelling, but like to other people that have been here for like 8 months, 9 months, you're yelling. Like you're very clearly upset to them, and that's a problem, for them to not want to let their voice be heard because they don't want to yell because they've lived that aspect of their life, and now they're at a point where they're like, you know what, let's talk about it. But I think that when you're the owner of something, it's different. Or if you're in the family of the ownership, it's different. And it's to a certain extent, it's understandable. Than not being, being on the outside of that and feeling like, well, I wouldn't yell at my boss. Like you would if your boss was in your family, and you would if your boss is wrong about what they're trying to push down everybody's throat, and you're like, no. This is how it is, and I can prove it, but you're just like, yeah, but I don't care about the proof.
There's an aspect, Joe, too. Also, if you're really great at not dwelling, like that's something that Giuliano and I really, from the very get-go, that was like almost a foundational pillar for us. Like it's physically impossible for us to not dwell. And if there are arguments at times, like of course there are, especially when you're 50-50 partners, there is so much value in having a devil's advocate, someone who doesn't just say yes to you all the time. Like you don't know what you don't know, and someone else's perspective who has the exact same amount to lose as you do is priceless. So if you're willing to listen to each other and hear them out, at least for their, as they state their case, that other perspective is probably the reason why we still have a business and why we haven't fallen by the wayside. So as long as you cannot take it personally, and you know that your partner really deep down is only arguing with you because they love you and they want to see the best for you, it's very easy to let that go at the end of the day, because Giuliano will tell you one of the things that I have absolutely no problem saying all the time is, I stand corrected. Like I looked at that wrong, so I think that's a really healthy way to approach it.
1,000%. And I would say there's not a lot of things that you can learn in life. I think you can learn. I believe you can learn patience, and you can learn to stand corrected, as well as not dwelling on things. I think it's one of those things that I know for me personally, I had to be worn down, like, sanded down, refined through the not dwelling part. And it's not that I'd let things go necessarily, or I forget things, but just to not let it wear on me more, because, at the end of the day, time, money, energy, right? Or time, energy, money. There's way more important things that require my time and energy than dwelling and the energy that can suck away from you from solving bigger problems, spending time with family, or whatever else is important to you, and things like that. So, excuse me. So I think it's one of those things that I think you have to allow yourself that space to get there, to be refined. And I think it comes with age, but I think what also can come with age is lack of patience. If you have patience, you can get the lack of patience. But if you don't have patience, or you don't have patience, you can learn patience over time. And I think I always thank a good friend of mine, Maxwell Ivy, for showing me the way. He's blind, and he wasn't blind until he was about 16, 17 years old, and he's in his mid to late 50s now. So, when I first met him, like I had never met anybody who was blind before. So like we had lots of deep conversations and things. Like he came from one of my conferences. So I didn't know him from anybody. I was like, I'll pick you up at the airport, or I'll pick you up at the train station, and we'll go get food. And then like right then and there, like right at first meal, like we start like everything, just the whole world of patience, you know, and what it takes when, you know, you grow up not having a whole lot of patience for waiting for things for the most part, and seeing how, like, wow, like I could live my life like that, and I got to learn to have patience, and how he had to learn to have patience with himself through not being able to see everything, so everything's a lot slower for him. You know, the phone.
Has he done any podcasts with you, Joe? I would love to hear that.
Has Maxwell Ivy has his own podcast as well. I can. I'll send it. I'll send it over to you. It's Maxwell. Maxwell Ivy is his name. I don't know his specific website, but it might be MaxwellIvy.com. I'm trying to find it right now while I'm speaking. But while I'm speaking, and we talk, because he talks a lot about dreams as well. What was each of yours? We'll start with Juliana. What was your childhood dream growing up?
I actually wanted to be a paleontologist. I don't know why. I feel like all kids kind of have this weird thing, but as a little kid, I wanted to be a paleontologist. And then as I grew up, I was always talking to my family and helping them. My mom had me when she was pretty young. She has 3 siblings. So it almost was like I grew up with my aunt and my uncles being like kind of like my brothers and sisters that were older. And they were like, you know, they were like maybe 20 years older, but still, you know, they're 26, 27, I'm 7. And it was just like, you know, it was still this interesting dynamic because they would come to me with these problems, and for some reason I would always talk to them and help them out. And then, so they just always came to me with their problems. And, you know, being like 10 or 12, I was like, wow, I want to get into, like therapy or be a therapist, because I love how it feels to, you know, listen to someone's issues and the problems that they're going through, and, you know, do what I can to help them and be there for them just to hear, and then maybe offer any type of suggestion, you know, and at least make them see the positive side of the, you know, issue. And so that I always wanted to be in that. I'm sorry, was anybody going to say something?
Yeah, I was going to say something. So you're going to find a paleontologist to tell all your problems to?
I knew it was worth asking if somebody was going to say something. But yeah, you know, that's what I wanted to be. I grew up with hearing my whole life from everybody that you can be anything you want to be, and I don't know why. It's weird, you know. I didn't grow up with any money. I grew up pretty poor, actually, and you know, everybody would just always say, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I'd be like, I don't really know, maybe like this or that. Like, you can be anything you want. And looking back, I'm almost like, wow, did my mom pay people to say that to me? But it was just so random, because I mean, from a waiter to this to that, or maybe that's just what I stuck in my head, but I just knew I could be whatever I wanted. You know, I knew I had the ability to. So it was just a matter of what did I have a passion in: paleontology, being a lawyer, this, that. It always moved and fluctuated. But ultimately, it landed when I grew up to, I want to create a business that helps people. I want to make a business that helps this world and doesn't hurt it, and can help people and maybe save people. So that was my dream as I grew up and became an adult. So
I'm glad you didn't pursue paleontology.
Well, listen, it's fun. Paleontology is fun.
Bro, I think you meant psychology.
No, paleontology, like where you dig dinosaur bones, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
don't know
Jurassic
why.
Park growing up, obviously.
It was a great movie.
Yeah, absolutely. No,
So, yeah,
I love that. We absolutely have that in common, Giuliano. People came to me with their issues as well, and from the age of like 7, I wanted to be a child psychologist to help other kids going through divorce like I was dealing with. So you know, for me, like, it's always been the thing. The thing that would help me back from doing it was I didn't want to go to school for like a decade to be a psychologist.
I didn't have that luxury. That held me back too. I was like, I don't have the luxury to go to college and get this additional schooling. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I could have. I absolutely could have, but schooling and me were like, it just was never, it was never a thing for me. And I've realized that probably around the age of 10, 11, even though I still always have had and continue to have people that come to me with their issues, and I listen and give feedback of how they can best deal with it themselves, and how to look at it from different perspectives and stuff. But no, so I can greatly appreciate that, that that's something that you wanted to do to be able to help others, and here you are, starting a business to help others and doing it.
Yeah. When Hank said that, he goes, I want to make this business so I can help other people with this berry. Like, it helped me. And I was like, damn, man, you said all the key words right there. Like, how can I say no?
And what about you, Hank? What did you want to be when you grew up?
I just knew what I didn't want to do. I saw my parents be doctors, and I saw that they just had no life. They were constantly around the clock, just in the emergency room. And, my dad wanted me to be a neurosurgeon like him. And I had to show him Dead Poet Society. Remember that movie?
Yes.
Yeah. He asked me, like, did you show me that movie because the dad put too much pressure on his kid to be a doctor? And I'm like, if I had the bell, Joe, I was like,
hey,
yeah.
He was smart enough to figure it out. If I had showed my dad that, I'd be like, what do you mean?
Yeah. So even though it was a question mark for me, I wanted to seize any opportunity that was in front of me at the moment. So a lot of that just was like opportunistic. Like, it was, I think that so many people would benefit from working with other people, because there is no shortage of experiences you can gain from being a food server for a while in your life. No shortage of experiences that you could gain from, like, working in retail. As it really does help you know how to navigate the rest of your life. As long as you have that experience, I feel like you could talk to anybody, and do a decent job of relating, or at least understanding where they're coming from. So that's how I kind of spent, probably 20 years of adolescence, after college, and then right before I found this. It was really easy for me to go into, like, something that was soul sucking, kind of what I look at Wall Street to be almost, Joe, because I got that degree. But early on, I found out that, I didn't want to spend my time in finance just the same way as I didn't want to spend my time in the emergency room. So I was still searching for things, but one of the key takeaways that a lot of people who work as a food server or work in retail feel like, like they're meant for something bigger or better. And you feel that way just because you don't have the perspective of time. The right opportunity is waiting to cross your path. And I feel like if you are tied to a six-figure paycheck, or something that is very difficult to walk away from, you might actually let that perfect opportunity go. But if you have something that you can walk away from, which was in my case, like a retail job, something that helped me pay the bills, but something that I knew that I could, step away from and actually, respond to my calling. I think that is also a blessing in disguise. So yeah, like, to summarize, like, if you feel like you have a bigger purpose, but you just haven't found it, but you're working in service, or you're working in retail, and you're constantly working with people, you're keeping that knife or that edge sharp. And that's what it's going to take for you, because there's never going to be someone in your company who cares more than you do. And similarly, someone's going to have to sell the crap out of whatever company that is. And so when it comes to selling, you need to know how to talk to people and deal with people and overcome objections, and like, educate people and have patience and be willing to put the time in. And you get all of those lessons from, what people would consider like low level jobs. So I don't think that there's anything that is beneath me. Like, I was always happy to work in my retail job. I was always happy to be a food server. But those qualities and those lessons you can't buy. either. And so sometimes people feel like they can't, pursue their passion, and they're a slave to their, salary or their income. And I think that that's a shame. And that's probably a bigger problem to overcome than, dealing with a lower paycheck or, living frugally for a time until you really find what you're called to do.
Million times percent over there. Being able to interact with people, I think it's kind of a shame that so many things are being stripped away from those lower income positions because it's those opportunities. I mean, one of my best friends in Australia, Samantha Riley, who I used to do the Business Geeks with, she started at 17 at McDonald's and then was like staying after hours and after hours and after hours, just talking with the manager, understanding the operations of how McDonald's operates and how to make it even better and how to do all those things, and then taking those lessons. And I mean, when I worked with HopeWorks, we had kids that would they're all underprivileged youth coming mostly out of Camden, New Jersey, and some out of Philadelphia, and they would be like, well, they would work through the program and then they get an opportunity to have a paid internship. So that paid internship could have been with me, it could have been with a local grocery store, and they're like, well, what does a grocery store have to show me? All I'm doing is stocking shelves. I'm like, yeah, but you get to see the operation. You get to see, you gotta like do the physical work or whatever, but like that's not the point. You're getting to be inside of something and a part of something that's bigger than you. And if you really take the opportunity to learn, you can learn all the lessons that grocery store had to figure out to get it to operate the way it is. So like you got to be able to take those opportunities and learn. And to go with what you said about because we've had people here like, I want to start a business or I want to do this, but I don't have a lot of money or I'm basically poor. Cool. Like if you don't have big bills, then you don't have to like stay a slave to that huge paycheck. Not that there's anything wrong with that. If that's how you want to live your life, that's fine. That's okay. As long as you're comfortable with it, I can be comfortable with it. But if you're not comfortable with it, then what you need to do is figure out the long-term game of how you're going to get away from that, reduce your bills, create the runway so that you could potentially leave it, or create something that like you can do in the meantime and kind of build up over time. Or maybe it just is a hobby that brings you $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 a year, and that's enough because that's your hobby and it pays you rather than you paying it, or you paying it in some sense. But I think that to me it's actually it's kind of like how judo, right? You use the person's weight against them, the bigger person's weight against them.
Momentum. Yeah.
Is it? Wait, what is it? Judo?
Yeah, exactly. Jiu-jitsu, both. It's both. Right.
So so like you're utilizing what you have available to you to turn it into a net positive versus a negative, and letting that hold you back. Because okay, and Giuliano, you didn't have the money to go to school for 10 years and go and get that degree or level of education to go and do what you wanted to do. But in the meantime, like you're helping people, right? And you're getting to be a great friend to people like Hank who are getting to be a great friend right back to you. And that to me, I mean, look, if when you boil down life, it's like people and nature. And like if you're winning on the people front, hopefully you're doing all right in the nature side. You have shelter, food, those Maslow hierarchy of needs covered. But like you just got to make the right decisions to get it to where you can feel comfortable to make those decisions of like, how do I get it even bigger, right? I mean, my great grandfather sold fruit out of a truck until he started his own trucking company because he fell in love with the trucks and fixing the trucks and all that stuff. So like he was a huckster in South Philly at the food markets. Like that was in the 40s and 50s, but like that's where it came out of, right? Like that, like if it wasn't for him, it wouldn't have rolled into the truck, the truck repair, the truck parts, and then eventually trucking again, failing at that spectacularly with fireworks and everything, into what we have today in the family. So, it's, you just have to work with go back to, start with the basics and work from there.
Exactly, man. That was so beautifully said.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, It was, and these people who, at least for me, I'll speak personally. It's hard doing everything, and whenever I feel like overwhelmed with stuff, I always like to think of this one thing in particular. It's I was raised by my mom. She was just a single mom who raised me, and I know how hard that is. And I think, trust me, I was not easy. I was a tough kid. So I just think about these moms who are young, have a baby, go to college, and hold down two jobs. And it's just like, how do you sit there and they go to college for like law or something crazy, and they're like, I'm studying to be a lawyer. I'm a single mother with two kids and two jobs, and it's just like, how the hell do you do that and keep your sanity? Like, I mean, it's I have none of that. And I just have one job I'm trying to hold on to. And when I was trying to build a business, I had a job and I was trying to be an entrepreneur and have companies. I would work full time, and then any break I got, it was really hard. But I would put my money to the side and try to create a little business here and there, or I would try to create the cheapest business so I can do a little side hustle and this and that and see what I can make money from. But I would just always think, okay, listen, there's these single moms who do it, and they have all these kids and stuff, and all these jobs. Like, if they can do it, I have so much less than that. I should be able to do it too, and I try to pull that power from them and just give that respect that they I don't know where they get it from, but I'm amazed, and I'm in awe of how they do it. So, and they do it. So I feel like if they can do it, I should be able to at least do half of that, because that's all I need to make it, just half of that.
Well, sometimes it's the out of necessity, right? Like they
ingenuity is the mother of necessity.
Yeah, exactly. There you go, exactly. So
exactly.
they feel that like their back is up against the wall and they don't have a choice, right? Like they want to make a better life for themselves and their kids, and yeah, it's going to take 4, 5, 6 years to get through that schooling, and probably a lot of crap jobs in the way. But also, to your point, Hank, leaving like the food serving job and stuff like that, like you could get another food serving job literally tomorrow. So it's not like, oh, I'm leaving a once in a lifetime opportunity. Like, yeah, maybe if it was like the highest end restaurant in the town and you're like, yeah, I might not be able to get that tomorrow, but like if they love me enough, maybe I could come back, kind of thing. Maybe. But that's the risk, risk reward you gotta weigh. If it's just like I'm working at the local diner, like, all right, there's 6 other, I mean, if you're in Jersey, there's 6 other diners within like 5 miles from here. So like I could work at any of those diners. So this is real quick. This is Maxwell Ivy. If you go to my site and you click on the little like search box and you type in Maxwell Ivy, you'll his podcast episode is up there, and he is a good friend of mine, and absolutely awesome being the blind blogger, traveling on his own. He wrote books about traveling on trains and planes by himself as a blind person. To me, that's just incredible. Again, it blows me away. I'm absolutely honored. I got to give him a call because it's been a couple of weeks since I've caught up with him. But what does the future of Nature's Wildberry look like?
Jay?
Oof, listen, for me, the future looks like having to be in. I mean, I like to see it like Tabasco, like ketchup, like the Morton sea salt. Just kind of a seasoned staple in everybody's house to have it for when you need it. You don't always need to put Tabasco on something, but when you do, hey, it's there and I can grab it and I can use it because, I have the berries at the house, and I'm actually, like I said, Hank and I are very opposite. I rarely use a berry. Hank uses it all the time. But the thing is that rarely doesn't mean never. I mean, there's so many times where I have something, I'm like, oh, this is just terrible, but I need to have this. Oh, you know what? I have a berry that changes flavor. And I'll take the berry and I'm like, oh, it's so convenient and so wonderful that I have the ability to access this thing that really does make my life so much easier when I need it to, for either, health reasons or medicine or, whatever, because I want to maybe see, oh, this drink tastes really crappy. Oh, I got this berry. I don't want to waste the money. I can take this berry and the drink will actually now taste delicious, for one reason or another. And that's just this really cool thing this berry does. And I would like to see it in every household to help people in any way that they want to, or even, hey, I got my buddy over, really bored. What do we do? I got this berry. You want to try it? Oh yeah, cool. Okay, bam. There's like 20, 30 minutes of entertainment right there. You know, so that's how I like to see it.
What about you, Hank?
Yeah, you know, one of the things that I really appreciated about Mark is that he kind of asked and then answered his own question about, like, this question about the vision, like how do we get this to a multi-million-dollar or you know, $100 million company? And he was like, you know, the path to get there is just putting it on little jars on every table, you know, jars in every pocket. And one of the things that people were asking about is, you know, obviously the miracle berry's been around since its nature. It's been around way longer than the history of it. You know, like, people have been using it in regions to make their food taste better for hundreds and thousands of years. So, you know, what is it that we're doing that can make it available to, you know, to retailers right now? And you can maybe not even wait a day or two to have it delivered. You could just pick it up like the rest of your groceries. And so that we figured out how to preserve it chemical free at peak potency is a really big thing. It introduces it to not just the rest of the United States, but also outlets within the United States. And then, you know, eventually, you know, years from now, the rest of the world. So yeah, definitely opens doors to, literally opens doors. And I think that first we'll approach the natural market, and then eventually conventional, and then eventually, you know, it'll be convenience that we're in, you know. So I just think about, like, when I go to, my favorite QSR happens to be Sweet Green at the moment, and I've been doing that, you know, like multiple times a week. And how great would it be, instead of, you know, bringing my jar, I could just, you know, take a little berry right there and then have my salad just explode with flavor, just like color did for TV. So yeah, I see us growing regionally, not nationally first, getting the data to support our expansion, being placed right next to the citrus in produce, and you know, helping people transition away from overly processed, extremely sugary foods to more of a whole food lifestyle. And they can do that not just having to have health be on their mind, but also coming from a foodie perspective and just having fun with little mini experiments along the way. And that's partly part of the reason why you don't see us telling people how to use it right now, is because while it's being introduced to people, a lot of people, you know, doubt it, and they you know, might not know what not to use it with. But a lot of people do figure out how to use it in their personal life. And because I or Giuliano or other people didn't tell them specifically what to think or how to do it, kind of like you wouldn't go into a museum and you know, next to the photo, next to the whatever painting, you don't see like people saying what to think about it, right? You just see like the artist's name and then like their date, and then that's it. And like, it's up to you to have it speak to you or not. And so little by little, people are cementing how this berry can work in their own lifestyle, and then figuring out other ways they can utilize it also. And I think that when they're giving it a life of its own by spreading it to friends and family, and that word of mouth is the reason why we're able to focus on our operations and make sure that we have money around to, you know, fix the mistakes that we make. Because that, I know, I watched your video with us, Joe, and that 80 grand, none of it went to marketing, zero. You know, it all went to helping us get the price lower, helping us, you know, make the next moves, and get the product out to people in a timely manner. So that's kind of how I see the future unrolling. Like, we're just getting started. We're, you know, a lot of it is education. Most people just have never heard of it. Still, if you ask 9 out of 10 people, they'll still be like, "What are you talking about? Like, this is not a real thing. You're just making stuff up." And so we have a long ways to go, but I'm not looking to finish this tomorrow. Like, I've got another 10 or 15 years ahead of me. So it is definitely a long-term play, so that it becomes a household name by the time we're ready to pass the reins on.
No, I love that. I mean, look, it's actually not a bad thing that people haven't heard of it, because that means that things can go up, right?
Oh, yeah.
Everybody already knew about it. Yeah, I mean, that would mean that you're in a stable market. It's kind of like the iPhone, right? Like, we know how many iPhones are going to sell. They might go up a little bit depending on what we put in it, but like, it's kind of already saturated at this point. So there's really only one way to go, right? And that's up. So how can people go and get their own Nature's Wild Berry?
Well, we're on the largest online retailer, so Amazon is where most of the people are going to search, find, and buy. natureswildberry.com is where we send people. Everything that you read right there came directly out of Lori's mouth. So she has been instrumental in helping us. Same with Mark. A lot of people ask us, what have Mark and Lori done for you? And I'm like, listen, like, in our eyes, we're still on day one. We still are servicing the Shark Tank community. But very detail oriented things have come from them. So it's been a true blessing to get to be mentored in a way from people who have been there and done that. And now that we have finalized our company and our formation, we've got the ability to do really other cool things in the future. Like, I think this time next year we'll be a public benefit company, Joe, which means that for patients who really need us, like ALS medication, I don't know if you know this, but it tastes awful. And there's other medications like that where people have written into us. People living with diabetes have written into us saying that we've helped them lower their A1C over 3 months from 11 to 6. Like, we get these stories from time to time. And, Mark is kind of leading the way with his cost plus drugs, and they're a public benefit corporation too. So I feel like, there's an opportunity for us to reach patients and not profit off of them, because there's a difference between wanting it and needing it,
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, yeah, I know. I mean, obviously, medicines have different tastes. I did not know about the ALS medicine being that nasty to ingest. And so, is that sour, or is it just nasty tasting in general?
So it's extremely bitter. So there are so many other ways that you can use the berry. Is more than just turning sour sweet, but because we hate making claims, it's the only claim that we do make, because it's just so obvious, like, you can't really deny that. But it does help with bitterness. It curbs bitterness as well. And so, like, people living with diabetes are prescribed bitter melon. And I don't know if you ever tried bitter melon, but it is no joke. Extremely bitter. And you take a berry, and this helps you make it palatable. It's wild. People across the country are used to pouring sugar in their coffee, and we've got like Cuban coffee and Turkish coffee that's super bitter, and you can have a berry and cut your sugar in half or eliminate sugar completely because it masks that bitterness. So, and then for savory foods, because I'm a foodie, I just have it for almost every meal. It just turns up that savoriness. So it unlocks these flavors you haven't tasted before, and it gives a depth to whatever meal you're having. So it's a lot of fun to experiment with, but there's definitely a need out there for it. Like, specifically, I talk about chemotherapy because both my parents went through chemotherapy when I was in my 20s, and a really common side effect that we don't talk a lot about because it's not our target market, but people that we could help for sure are people that have that metallic taste in their mouth. And we've had so many people say that, when I really needed food the most and I didn't want to have it, I was able to eat full meals because the berry gave me my normal taste buds back. And that's not something that, Giuliano and I take lightly. It's a quality of life issue. So we're going to build that charity part into our business, and we've got the Sharks' blessing on that. And that means that you'll probably be able to find us in hospitals in the near future. So,
wow, that is phenomenal. I mean, my dad went through chemotherapy as well, and that was a tough couple of years. Yeah. That was a tough couple of years, but he's doing all right. He's doing all good. I assume your parents are as well.
Well, I've got the perspective of both. My mom's a survivor, and Giuliano and I know that we wouldn't have the company without her help. And then I also can relate to people that have lost a parent, because I lost my dad too. And so that was part of the reason that when it didn't air, but I did share with the Sharks that when I became an emotional eater was because I was mourning the loss of my dad. And so that's when you just eat and you just drink just to feel something. And that's when you can only think of like your next taste bomb, And so, I kind of feel like this is a little crazy for me to say it, but I kind of feel like there needs to be something built into our social safety net for bereavement. Like when you have a significant other pass or whatever, I kind of feel like we as a society should help people for like 6 months to a year, just kind of get back on their feet. And I don't know, there's so much that we could do as a society, make it a little bit better, but we get to shape that going forward, and nothing is set in stone. And if you can learn from anything, it's that you don't know everything, because who in the heck knew that there was a flavor changing berry out there, right?
Ding, ding. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, guys, I so appreciate both of you taking this time. It's one of the longest interviews we've done. I know it always runs long when you have two people on a podcast, but I appreciate both of you taking the time to be here. And, you're welcome back anytime. And Hank, again, I appreciate you being a part of the super community and representing it so well. Not just like that. Like, that is awesome. Ding, ding. But I mean, even still, just, it's about being a person that wants to do better for the world and the people around them. And so I greatly appreciate you, and you as well, Giuliano. Thank you so much.
Thank you for doing what you do too. So, appreciate that. And thanks for having us on. It's an honor.
Ding, ding.
Absolutely. And thank you for making it all the way to the end of this interview. Greatly appreciate you making it. If not, if you haven't watched their interview, their Shark Tank interview. Watch them on Shark Tank over here. If not, I'll see you in the video over here. Take care and go be super.